Hello! Welcome on in, folks! How's everybody doing? Hope you're all having a good one. Minimal, thank you so much for the 6 months resub during the intro. Whilst we're getting warmed up here. We're in! How's everybody doing? Because I have a few keys missing. I'm a few keys short of a full keyboard right now. Or not that I'm short of them necessarily, it's just that they don't work. So when it turns out, when I spilled a little bit of tea on my keyboard the other day, I thought I'd cleaned it all up. Like, I thought I'd been pretty thorough about cleaning it. But since then, yesterday, under weird circumstances as well, because I think they were working a little earlier in the day, but maybe some sort of, like, lingering effect took place. Now the Control, Alt, and Windows keys on this keyboard do not work. So today I have rebound Sprint to backslash, because it's next to the left shift, so it's actually going to work as an alternative to hitting Control. Obviously you can double tap forward for Sprint as well, but yeah, unfortunately my keyboard needs replacing now. But don't worry, Corrales is hooking me up, so we don't need to worry too much about that. Elkhorn, thank you for the 60 months, the 5-year resub. Oh my goodness, is that one of my first 5-year resubs? I think it is. Because I know Tinker's been talking about it for a while. I think Tuxedo Cat's probably been around here and there. But yeah, Elkhorn with the 60 months, my goodness. But yeah, no, Corrales is a lovely man and is hopefully going to send me a replacement fairly soon. So fingers crossed we shouldn't be in this situation for too long. However, it has delayed a bit of the editing and stuff I was doing because I use keyboard shortcuts a lot, and I have a right control that I can use to hit Control-C, Control-V, and all that stuff, but, like, man, the muscle memory just takes over at a certain point, and I found it really, like, frustrating to edit the other day. But yeah, I've had a bunch of wonderful recommendations for mugs that you can't knock over. So, yeah, I might be investing in a travel mug or something with a lid anyway, not just because I, you know, worry about spilling stuff on my computer equipment, but also because we're going to be doing some traveling later this year, so that's the idea, at least. So yeah, we've had holding shift with your thumb. Now we have sprinting using backslash. We'll see how all this goes. Casville, thank you for the 9 months. Welcome in. So today we're going to be on Empires Mythical Sausages online right now. And we're going to be doing a bit of terraforming around the ancient capital. It's going to be mostly chill stuff today, because, yeah, I'm planning on doing a fairly large castle build up here, and I'm already hitting Control, up here on the cliff. And so we potentially are going to be removing some of this mountain, but so far what I've done is flattened out this whole area. It looks very homogeneous right now, but a lot of stuff is going to be built on this, so for the most part you might not see the ground, and we'll obviously terraform around the structure once I have an idea of where it's going to be, because there's no point putting in more detailed terraforming work if it's just going to be, like, you know, completely invisible once we start building stuff. But this whole area right here, we started building the cliff on a previous stream, and so this whole area is now flat. And the castle's actually going to continue around that way, and is going to take up a lot of this area, this whole hilltop. And I'm not certain what we're doing with the calcite part on the mountain yet, but we'll figure that out when we get to it. Either way, we got a pretty large castle build planned, and one of the things I want to do is start terraforming the area around here so that there's a bit more of a cliff, and so that there are only a couple of places that you could walk up the hill to get to the castle. And I want it more to feel kind of like this area here, where there's kind of an overhang, or you know, some sort of like flat wall there, to like cliff wall, to prevent you from just, you know, hopping up the side of a hill to get to the castle. And then we'll have like paths and stuff leading up to gates and various other bits and pieces. I also want to have, see, there's up here, there's a water source up in the top part of the mountain that doesn't really go anywhere. I decided that this whole area needs a bit more, like, I don't know, color or something. It needs a bit more life. And so what I want to do is actually have a river coming down through here, and maybe even leading you know, around the hill and down towards the lake at spawn or something. But a river gives you so many opportunities to, like, build a town around it. And if it's like spring water coming from a mountain, then it's going to be good drinking water, and whatever population of people settled here is going to have a reason to, like, stick around this river and use it to irrigate crops and to drink and to, like, wash and everything. So that's the plan. It's a long project, so we're going to be doing a fair amount of terraforming just in this stream. But one of the things I want to do is just start building up a cliff face kind of around here. And it also gives a nice way of flattening this part off and maybe building, like, up to the edge of the cliff without it feeling like a sudden terrain transition like we have here right now, you know? We're not obviously going to be managing all of that on stream today, but we're going to do a fair bit of it, I think. So that's what we're going to make a start on, at least. I mean, we've made a start already. We're going to continue a lot of this work. Galaxy Boy, thank you for the 7 months. Casville, thank you for the 9. If you could rebind the F3 debug screen to another key, which one would you choose, or would you leave it at F3? I'd leave it at F3, to be honest, because it's kind of out of the way, so you're not going to hit it all of the time. But yeah, the only other rebind I typically do is I rebind the F5 perspective shift to R so that you can easily get to it from the rest of the keys you use. And that's because it allows you to, like, if you're sprinting and running, you can check behind you nice and quickly without having to take your hands off the mouse or the controls that you're currently using. Like, it's kind of awkward to get to F5 from there. Imeza, thanks so much for the tier 1 sub, and Poiso3, thank you for the 22 months. Really appreciate that, thank you. The other thing I want to do, because there's a lot of gaps that have been left in the grass and terrain around here from where Joe Hills was digging looking for sculpt catalysts, so I also want to smooth out some of those. So I'm going to grab a bunch of the grass that I've left in my storage room here. And I think we'll make a start with that. Picked up a little bit more than I expected to, but there you go. Loving the spawn chunks, keep it up. Thank you, Horizon. I'm enjoying making the show, as usual. It's been a while we've been doing the show now. It's been, like, a few years. Like the idea of rebinding F5 to R. Yeah, it just makes it more accessible, and you don't use the R key for anything else in Minecraft right now. Obviously, if they introduce something that's, like the offhand switch with F, is something that I use all the time, so if they ended up choosing to put something else on R that was really useful for gameplay, I figured I might as well choose a different key at that stage. But I know there's a lot of people who rebind Q to a different button because they don't like accidentally dropping stuff, but I'm enough used to it that I'm not gonna, like, hit Q by mistake these days. Hey, Andy, is Yoda in the house? Welcome in. Good to see you. Hope you're well. Haven't caught any of your streams lately, but I imagine there are fantastic projects going on over there. Can we get a shout out for Andy if the mods are around, please? Andy is Yoda, fantastic creative builder and pioneer of the various build styles that you may have seen. Use R for sprint? Hey, that's not a bad idea. Thank you, mods. Disabling double tap to sprint, it's criminal. You can't disable that in vanilla. Honestly, it doesn't get in the way for me too often, but like the mouse side button for view selection. Yeah, like I end up forgetting that those exist a lot of the time. I don't think they do anything for me in Minecraft. Like, having that be sprint would actually be quite fun. I kind of wonder if that would work better instead of backslash, but backslash is really close to control for me, so that's not too bad. But yeah, the side buttons, I always forget about them, and then I'll accidentally hit one when I'm using, like, a web browser, and it will go back a page, and I'll be like, wait, what just happened? It confuses the heck out of me for a second, and then I remember that that's a thing. Yeah, there's just a lot of, like, empty spaces in here, and normally, like, it wouldn't matter that much. It's not like these are generating mobs or anything, but sometimes, yeah, they open out into cave space like this, which I'd rather just cover up. And it's just a lot of large and unsightly holes in the landscape at the moment. So I figure I might as well fill most of it in, if not all of it. Kind of going the etho route of making sure everything's filled in and solid, you know? Are those the skulk holes left behind by Cub? It's Joe. It's where Joe has decided to start digging around for skulk catalysts by removing the top layer at sort of fairly random, but presumably at least intuitively calculated, a guesstimate of where Cub has placed the skulk catalysts. Mostly I just want this space to look flat and normal for a little while. He had a whole system, yeah. Like, I imagine Joe is the kind of guy who would have a whole system. This is just, yeah, natural cave. Although, there's a couple of darker spots down here which I might as well light up. That looks okay. Ginger, thank you for gifting a sub to Andy. A cool girl, thank you for the 8 months. And Nana-chan, amazing, thank you for the 8 months. You of M, thank you for the 25. What's the main stone type I plan to use on the castle? Would you believe stone? I think stone with accent colors is probably what we're going to go with, but it's going to have a lot of like deep slate accents and mud and a lot of the darker gray palette that we've got going on right now. There's going to be a lot of moss, a lot of mud. It's basically going to follow a similar pattern to what we have here. And then if I can fit in other colors and wood accents and stuff, then I will. But stone is what I have a lot of. It's what I can generate a lot of. I can buy a bunch of it from Fwip if I need to. And gray is just like a natural palette for old buildings like this. But you can throw in a lot of detail otherwise. For folks who haven't been to my previous streams and heard me talk about it, this is largely inspired by Stormvale Castle from Elden Ring, but it's not going to be just like a one-to-one reproduction build of Stormvale. It's going to be taking some of the architectural elements and taking some of the ways that the way they've designed Stormvale, the design decisions really impact how you explore and your overall first impression of the castle. Because typically when you first approach Stormvale Castle, you end up going in basically by a back entrance, or like you go around the castle and just try and find a way, picking your way around the walls. And what you see from that is kind of what I've tried to emulate with the top of this castle tower, which is a bunch of ruined areas that are like blackened and burned, and there's a lot of the construction material from when the castle was built clearly like visible inside of there. There's eroded brickwork and there's stuff that's all crumbled. There's even like thorns and brambles that have started to take root in there, and you know, tree like plants and like all kinds of like roots and like a ton of stuff like that, birds' nests and things, where clearly it's been like that for a while. And you know, if you dig deeper into the lore, it seems likely that Stormvale Castle was established by, you know, the, for want of a better term, humans, or the humanoid population of the lands between, which is where Elden Ring takes place. But then the castle must have been attacked by either siege weaponry or dragons at some stage, because there's a bunch of these giant holes in the wall like it's been assailed. And most of those are on the side facing the sea, so you imagine it's probably dragons have flown around the side and like, you know, breathe fire on the outside of it and try and melt the stonework and all that kind of stuff. And so I like the idea of building with that in mind. If not necessarily like this castle was attacked by dragons at some stage, a bit more like using the the architecture and the design decisions you make whilst you're putting the castle together to try and tell the story of the place. That is my plan for now, at least. I think that's most of the areas where the grass has got a bit churned up. So that's good. This has always kind of been like that. I want to get more deep slate coal as well. I find deep slate coal is a really neat transitional material for if you're building stuff like this. Coal ore and deep slate coal are really nice. And obviously it's supposed to be hard to find, but you find it fairly regularly if you're mining at the right layers. No, I don't have a world download for Survival Guide Season 2 because that series is not done. It's just on hiatus while I work on Empires stuff. And it will be back fairly soon because I have some fun ideas coming up for it, but it's just been a little hard to get back into my routine with a couple of setbacks after my trip to the US. Might be cool to have the odd tree or bush and flowers like you do in real life ruined walls. Yeah, like one of the things I want to do, even though a few people have done this recently, like I know Jem did in the current season of Hermitcraft, and I think Joel Smallish Beans just posted a video on his, I think, hardcore world maybe, or some kind of like design challenge that he did for himself, where the castle is built like around a tree. And there's just a giant tree kind of growing from it. I kind of want to do that on a smaller scale, but in multiple locations around here. So there's like a series of larger trees that have just been able to take root in the castle walls and grow organically from there. Of course, Ginger is recommending Barry's. I've never had Barry's tea, I don't think, but it comes highly recommended from some of my Irish friends. Let's see. Do I have any stone blocks left in here? I don't. Okay, we can continue from where we are right now. How do you grind so much dirt? Dirt is not even a problem like around here. Like I've dug up so much stuff just in the process of terraforming this area and putting a road in and that kind of stuff. There's tons of areas where I've got dirt and grass and stuff from. You just accumulate it over the course of a longer term world like this. Like terraforming is one of those things that I do fairly casually, but also fairly frequently. So I think around here is really where we're going to start this, because I want this to be coming out of like a rock wall. But then, yeah, we're going to acquire a lot of dirt right now, because the idea is that this is going to continue sort of around there. You know, even though I just filled in all these holes, I'm probably going to just make them all again, but let's not worry too much about that. I think... Where are we looking over here? Yeah, if this is kind of perched on there, and maybe the landscape has crumbled away outside of it, which is how come, like, this is as broken up as it is, but... You can duplicate dirt if need be. Yeah, it's kind of a time-consuming process, though. And you really don't need to duplicate dirt in a, like, a default world. Like, if you're in Skyblock, I can understand needing to do it, but... Even if I want to go and get like a ton of grass or whatever, I will just dig up grass somewhere. I don't mind shaving the top layer off of a plains biome or something instead of, you know, farming it or anything. There might be some areas where we have to do a little bit of rearranging. And especially since, like, you don't even need a particularly good shovel to insta-mine dirt and grass. It's always so easy to get a hold of. Moss, on the other hand. Need to get some more of that. Weasel Gamer, thank you so much for the 10 months. Lilypad Square, thank you for the 6 as well. I know Joel has a moss farm, so we can get plenty of it if we need it, but I'm wondering how much I have down here. Yeah, fair bit. Okay, we'll take a couple of stacks. We'll bring that with us. A bit of bossa nova, which I don't mind. You know what this is reminding me of? A little late to the party, I just got into Polyphia, who, if you're unfamiliar, are a band of like instrumental guitar stuff, kind of similar to Animals as Leaders. Some incredible guitarists and musicians in general, but they have a track from their most recent album that has this very kind of like bossa nova groove to it, which is really nice. See, if we do stuff like this with moss kind of like creeping up the wall, mix in a bit of mossy cobble, it's going to look quite nice. Kind of have it creeping up like that. Would glow lichen help the transition? Probably, but I'm not that worried about the details yet. We'll leave that as grass. We'll probably cut down this acacia for now. One thing I'm really happy about with the new cherry wood is that it's not another wood type that starts with A. Because I still have to think before I say either azalea or acacia. And half the time I still get it wrong. BG, thanks so much for the 4 months. Love the streams. They're one of my comfort places. Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. And Grey Cat Crossing, thank you for the 2 months. Soul Tundra, thank you for the 38 months. Great to have you all back. As occasionally, yeah, nah, yeah, something like that. Castle Lioness, thank you for the 29 months. Mossy Deep Slate, I wish. We'd love to have some Mossy Deep Slate. I think we need to have some like rooted dirt around these trees when they're growing just on their own like that. Does anyone know if the sniffer is supposed to drop anything on death? I don't believe so. Unless they're farm animals, they don't seem to have a great deal of incentive to kill, like, passive mobs like that. So I don't expect the sniffer will drop anything. Mossy Deep Slate because green is more complementary to the grey over the brick colour. Yeah. Like moss going in these, I don't think it would work as well. But like, I don't really have any deep slate in this. There's a couple of blocks up there. I just think in the kind of cracks in the slate, it does make a fair bit of sense. Mossy Deep Slate be cool for strongholds and dungeons below Y0, yeah. Although it is kind of nice to have strongholds and dungeons keep the stone brick cobblestone palette that they have right now, because it stands out so much against the Deep Slate that you can spot it more easily. I really think once you're at the stage in the game where you're looking for the strongholds, I don't know what Sausage is up to, but I presume he's over at Catherine's. Yeah, I feel like the stronghold generation shouldn't disguise itself too much. They're hard enough to find as it is. Use vines to create that effect? You could, but vines are just difficult to control. I just find it kind of irritating how they spread so easily. And if you put string or other blocks and stuff around them, you can stop them from growing, but obviously it's a little obvious when you've done that some of the time. And vines also being, is it like a tile entity, I guess? I think they also don't render in at certain distances. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm thinking of Bedrock as opposed to Java, but yeah, that can get a little hard to reckon with. Hey, Slow Trinity, welcome in. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for stopping by if you're from YouTube. Splash potion of stop growing that would fix any vines or whatever. It doesn't really go along with potion effects, because potion effects are, by their nature, kind of temporary and mostly affect the player. So I feel like it'd be kind of confusing. I think the best solution to it really would be to have vines affected by shears in the same way that you can right-click on cave vines and warped and twisting vines with shears and have them stop growing. That's something they implemented not too long ago, and it doesn't work on those regular vines because you'd have to do it with every block, right? Like the warped and twisting and cave vines either grow vertically upwards or downwards, whereas vines cling to a surface and they spread out, right? And yes, then we could splash Jimmy with a potion of stop growing. I think once we're getting down into these stone layers, I should probably get a beacon. I didn't foresee myself moving too much stone, but obviously there's only a few layers of dirt that we shift before we get to stone anyway. But if we take a quick look from further back, like you can see the line of that stone cliffside kind of starting to wrap around here. That's really the vibe I'm after. And then we can build some cool stuff in spaces like this, you know? Like, there could be an outbuilding for the castle, or people from the town could have built up to the cliff wall around here. Yeah, let's go get a beacon just to make this a little faster. Secretly a Cat's also just joined from YouTube. Just binge-watched the entire Empire series in about a week, and it's very fun. Thank you. I keep working on larger stuff like this, which is preventing me from putting out too many more episodes, because I don't tend to make small projects, and I don't always have the time to work on them that I would like, but...
Alright, let's bring that beat back.
I've also, only got myself to blame, because I've started to get really, invested in Marvel Snaps, so... And not invested financially, but invested, like, time-wise. Ghost Cat's still hanging out. That's pods, always regular dirt. There we go. And I can start chucking away some of this while I'm down here. Ghost cat making sure creepers stay away, yes. Where's the coal got to? There it is. Yeah, see, no deep slate coal here, just regular coal ore. Yeah, and bingo streams. Obviously, bingo's been fun to play around with while it's fresh and new, you know? Don't really need the seeds. Oh, that's the other thing. Not being able to, like, control Q stuff out of my inventory is just, like, ugh. There's the iron. Right. Don't actually sprint with backslash. Where is that on my keyboard? It's right next to left shift. And where the control windows and alt keys are, it's basically just above those. So it's not too far away from where I'd normally hit control anyway. For some people, backslash is on the right-hand side of the keyboard, and the K4, the keyboard I use, it's like it's on the left. So I have a ton of beacons. What Minecraft bingo am I using? Fetcher by 99, sir. If you do ! bingo in chat, you get a link to it. But it's just updated to 1.19, so there's like a ton of new stuff on the bingo card now. First time watching Empires, love watching Bingo 119 this past week, so I thought I'd check this out. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for sticking around, Jen. And yeah, this is Empires. This is my build. Obviously, the concept, as the name implies for this season, is that we are a series of empires. Each creator has their own empire, and mine is more an empire of the past than someplace that I actually rule. I wanted to build more backstory stuff for the world, so I kind of decided to build a ruined city that nobody lives in anymore, and I'm more like an archaeologist kind of uncovering fragments of the past, which is obviously great now that archaeology is being introduced in 1.20. I don't know if this server's going to update to 1.20, but if it does, then naturally we can do some fun stuff with that. But I'd like to keep the archaeology thing going in like future seasons or other seasons anyway, because I've really enjoyed that approach to this season. Where am I going to get all the blocks for a beacon? Do I have a ton of iron blocks lying around, or have I used them? Frog lights, gunpowder, backup gear. I don't know what I've... The beacon I have over here isn't really active because it's just a bunch of gold blocks underground, I think. Like below here. Yeah, there's just like 9 gold blocks. That's not really a full beacon setup. Did I leave it at a strip mine? I bet I left it at a strip mine. I have no idea where that is now. Right, has False got iron for sale? Iron and enchanted books. Not really enough, though. Visit the iron airship. Oh, I guess, yeah. Let's head over to Cogsmead. Ever since watching the Empire Season 2 series, I've been tempted to cosplay as the Angel statue. Awesome! I'd love to see that. That'd be incredible. Do I organize Empires SMP? No, I'm just a player. Fwip is really the main admin and stuff, but we're fairly democratic in that we sort of organize everything by group consensus. This one's false, right? Okay. Random barrel. Oh, there's like anvils and stuff leading up to this. I've been over here for a little while. Repairs, lots of poppies. Oh, here we go. What can I leave? What will be a good... You know what? Since I have so many beacons and we've not started the project at spawn yet, I don't mind grinding up a few more. I'm going to leave 3 beacons here in exchange for 3 stacks of iron. I think that's a fairly fair trade. 3 stacks of iron blocks, I should say. What do you reckon, chat? Do you think that's fair? You can do a lot with beacons. And it saves the hassle of grinding for them yourself. I love this archway so much. The gradient from oxidized copper down into the darker stuff, that's really cool. And fair play to False for using Skulk after so much of it was left around the server. How do I have so many beacons? I started with a skeleton farm around the time the hermits came to visit. And then... yeah, I ended up with like several stacks of wither skulls, so we ended up just farming beacons on a stream. I killed the wither probably like 100 or 110 times. And so as a result, there is a great deal of beacon in that shulker box I have. I left my ender chest, it's fine, I have more. Like, I have 2. Tend to keep them in the bundle because it's just an easy way to store them. If it turns out it's in a kind of awkward place, then False can move it. There's still a tower on the bridge that isn't done. Yeah, I don't know who hasn't done one. I don't know if Catherine has done one. There's a few folks who might not have, but it's not mandatory. It's just a fun idea. Right, around here. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Any seasoned Minecraft players keep loads of ender chests on them at all times. Yeah, because you can break them down for obsidian as well, so it's actually a good compact way of getting obsidian. And by that stage, you've probably got enough blaze farms and enderman farms to keep you supplied with the Eyes of Ender. Obsidian always comes at a premium, though. Any opinions on bundle balancing, considering I play with bundles all the time on Empires? I think they're great. Excuse me. I really like them. I don't see, honestly, why everybody has such a hard time grasping the bundle thing. Like, everybody just wants more inventory space, I think, ideally, right? Like, people see them as, like, a missed opportunity to have backpacks or something that expands your inventory, maybe not to the extent that shulker boxes do, but in a different way. And personally, I just think it's so helpful to be able to organize stuff better. Honestly, just keeping an ender chest, a crafting table, and a stone cutter in there is a game changer. But, like, you know, I don't want to have a stone cutter on me all the time, but then when I build using stone variants and I just want a couple of stairs and stuff, then it's so handy to have. So I honestly think bundles are a really good feature. I miss them every time I go back to my other worlds. Do I have anything in here that we can use to light the beacon? No, I guess I'll just crack open one of these iron blocks. It's like breaking a 20, you know? Sometimes you don't want to do it. Let's put haste 2 on, and we are golden. Put the rest of the iron in here, and it can be a general purpose beacon box for now. Having bundles and SMPs is so fun, selling things in groups. Yeah, you can have like kind of secret auction style things where you don't know the contents of the bundle until you paid for it or whatever. Like there's lots of fun you can have with them. Obviously, Hermitcraft is using them for the like TCG card packs and stuff right now. Like there's so many good ways you can use them. Bundles didn't make it into vanilla. They are technically in vanilla, but they're not like implemented for survival. You can only get them in creative. In this case, we get them using a data pack, but they're part of the code on Java Edition. The main problem is just Bedrock Edition not being able to really interact with them the same way because of mobile players. I think that's the chief thing that's keeping them out of full implementation, because honestly, I think they've achieved what they set out to do with them. They're quite clear about it at Minecraft Live, where they're like, the whole point of this is to clear out inventory clutter of those like 1s and 2s of items that you no longer really need, you know, taking up all of that space in your inventory when you've got other precious things that could be there. Like in early game especially, like if you grab sugarcane, if you grab, you know, little bits and pieces of coal and iron and stuff as you go, flowers for dyes and that kind of thing, but you just want somewhere to put them in the meantime. Bundle's a good place for that. You're only going to grab 1 or 2 of certain items. But yeah, people just want one inventory solution that's going to work for every single problem they have, and that's just... I think that's not really how they develop Minecraft. Like, they don't try and solve problems for everybody with one feature, because lots of people have different problems. I think the main issue outstanding about vanilla bundles is just the availability and the fact that you have to get rabbit hide for the default recipe for them, which means a lot of people either don't want to kill rabbits or have trouble finding rabbits because they don't do as much exploring, and the biomes where rabbits are frequent are fewer and further between, which has improved with meadows, and I don't know if rabbits appear in cherry groves or not, but like they might. Cherry groves and meadows are fairly similar in terms of mob spawns right now. But yeah, I love bundles. I think bundles are severely underrated. Basin and meadows and SMP at the moment, and there's so many rabbits there. Yeah, meadows are one of the places they show up constantly. I bet you really enjoy sheep and donkeys at this point as well. Fair number of people don't know you can lure rabbits to you with a dandelion. Yeah, and that's something I've obviously been doing a lot in Minecraft Bingo, but there's a lot of utility to it if you're trying to get hold of bundles too. Is that a zombie spawn or just a cave? It's just a cave. Like, there's a lot of little gullies and stuff like that in the landscape here that's going to be causing noises like that. Ambience for the build, yeah. The zombie building inspectors are out in force. Haven't heard the word gully since I was a kid. I tend to use it a lot right now. It's just one of my go-to words since terrain generation changed to just describe some of the occasional quirky features that you get in Minecraft terrain now. Yeah, they're probably down there underneath that. Jenny, thank you so much for the 10 months. 10 months of chill. As ever. Glad that people find it so relaxing being here. Fill a gully with ferns. Yeah, right. Never seen that movie. Or if I have, it was a long time ago and I forget it now. Still using the keyboard with the spilled tea? Yes. The alternative is going back to my old keyboard, which I ditched in favor of this one because it double inputs, and so some of the backspace key is really inconsistent. It either deletes nothing or deletes everything. And yeah, I've just got too many issues with that one. So really, this isn't too much of an adjustment. Like, I'm playing Minecraft just fine. The control key is not working, but the backspace... Not the backspace, the backslash is currently my sprint key. And that's okay, it's working fine. It's making using the PC for other stuff a little annoying, but a replacement will be coming soon. Usually I use Alt for sprinting. Yeah, see, that key doesn't work either. The Windows key, the Alt, and the left control are all currently broken. I'm fairly certain the T is to blame. Because, like, otherwise the build quality on these keyboards is great. As long as you don't shift with your thumb, yeah. I said at the start of the stream, like... You've heard of shifting with your thumb. Welcome to sprinting using backslash. Must have been strong tea. Yeah, I mean, I've spilt worse in some other keyboards I've had, but... Like, I've spilt more tea. I don't think I've spilt anything worse in terms of, like, liquids. What kind of keyboard? It's an Extrify K4. And so when everybody else was getting keyboards from Extrify, Keralis offered to send me one, but I said I'm going to get a custom keyboard at some point later this year, so I didn't want him to like spend a bunch of effort on something that was going to be like customized in the way that it is for the other folks, where it's got their name printed on it and stuff. And so I ended up just buying like a separate keyboard, because the one he was interested in sending to people was like not a full-size keyboard, but I already used the 10 key for a ton of other stuff, so like I use it to switch scenes. Like whenever I hit that, I'm pressing 7 on my 10 key number pad, and like I have a Stream Deck for stuff like that, but I found the Stream Deck really inconsistent. Like occasionally it will work, like if I press that button, yeah, there you go, like it works more consistently now for some reason, but before I found my Stream Deck wasn't working as consistently. And so I don't like to use that to switch scenes very much, even though I think it's set up to, or maybe it's not set up on these scenes anymore. But anyway, I use the 10 key for that, and so a keyboard without a 10 key is less useful to me. So I ended up starting to rely on that a bit too much, and so I figured I'll just buy one of the extra 5 boards that has a 10 key. And Corrales was like, why'd you do that? Like, I would have just sent you one. Because he's a lovely man. But yeah, I also said, you know, I'm getting this custom board eventually. Like, I don't want to have you put a bunch of effort into something that you're just gonna, like, I'm just gonna sideline after a while. And so he was like, yeah, that's fine, but if you need anything else, let me know. And then I spilled tea on this, and then the control key stopped working, and I was like, Corrales. But he's so generous. Like, he was like, no, don't worry, I got you covered. I'll hook you up. So yeah, he's a good lad, and I will be very very keen to encourage people to shop Extrafy peripherals when they need them, because they're pretty good. Like, I really like the RGB on this keyboard. It is all programmed in on the board itself, so that you don't have to install, like, third-party software and whatnot, which is the bane of my existence when you get some of the Logitech stuff, and it's like, oh, it's not going to work unless you update G-Hub or whatever. And I'm just like, oh, just stop. Like, just let me do this in a simple way instead of it all being, like, tied to proprietary software. What color switches do I prefer? I mean, I don't really care about the switches because I don't see them most of the time. And the keycaps on these are all, like, black with... They're kind of, like, center top capitals legends, but... the switches I'm getting, I can't remember what they're called. I think they're something dragons? My partner knows. My partner is the one who builds, like, custom keyboards and stuff as projects. I just reap the benefits. Guybrush3 Pickle, excellent name. Thank you so much for the Prime sub. A brand new sub to the channel as well. Enjoy your emotes and your sub badge. Welcome to the Pixels. You fight like a dairy farmer. You're on Twitch, you're required to have an opinion on the switches? I mean, really? Is that something people always have an opinion on if they're a Twitch streamer now? As your dragons? They might be. They might be those. Are they, they're like tactile switches, yeah? Because that's the one thing switching from the Logitech G board that I had to this Extrafy board. Linear switches feel strange to me because I'm used to the tactile ones. Max Baker, thank you for the raid. Welcome in. Why do people like keyboards with all kinds of rainbow colors? I don't really like the look of them. What do you all think? I don't know. I like it being a bit more colorful. I mostly have the backlights and illumination set fairly low. But honestly, it's just nice having a bit of color in this setup, because so many PC peripherals are just like flat color, gray or black or white or whatever, and so I kind of like there being a bit more color in the setup. The same with like RGB and computer cases. It's like, it's kind of useless, but it makes it look like there's cool stuff going on under the hood, you know? I'm just a sucker for bright colors. Just like bright, colorful things. It's like the nano leaf and the hue lights behind me. Like, I enjoy having like more color as part of my office environment, because it's my office. Like, I don't want it to feel sterile and plain and like I'm still working like a corporate office job. Like, I like the fact that I can decorate however I want to here, and that includes just having a bit of color in my equipment. I mean, it's personal preference, of course. Like, if you don't like it, then sure. I ain't gonna fight anybody on that, you know? I like bright, colourful things, ancient capitals, all greys. Ah, you got me. Thing is, my office is not from the past. Excuse me, are you from the past? Yeah, I think it's actually not as grey as you might think. Like, the grey is really just there to be a contrast to everything else. Kind of like the RGB on this keyboard, because the rest of the keyboard is black, but accent colors are the things that make it pop, right? I know you're just being joking around and being facetious or whatever, but like would this statue feel like the gold accents worked as well if the rest of it was all made out of colored concrete? Probably not, right? Probably not. Minecraft Monthly is happening. Exciting. I wasn't going to, like, restream it or anything, but I am kind of interested to see what they end up naming the update. So, yeah, bear in mind, folks, if you're at all concerned about this thing, people are probably going to be spoiling the name of the update in this chat. So if you're going to try and tune into Minecraft Monthly yourself later, or you don't want it spoiled for you in the chat, you might want to leave fairly soon, because people will be in here immediately. It's a video, not a stream or a premiere. Yeah, I know, but like I can watch it on my stream. I know that's not exactly restreaming, but people just skip to the end. 1.20 feels like it may be a community update. I mean, it's what they've said about it from the beginning, so. Built things with glazed terracotta before and they turned out good. Yeah, I'm using glazed terracotta as, like, bits for the windows there to make the window frame feel more rounded. Like, it's the grey glazed terracotta, but still. The do-it-yourself update kit, yeah. So that's looking quite nice. I think the cliff side here is looking fairly organic. I still don't know exactly where the waterway is going to be. We'll figure that out later, but I think it's probably going to come down around here somewhere. The Everything Everywhere All at Once update. .20, the Sonic and Tails update. The harder to get netherite update, very good. .20, the And Knuckles update, yes. One of your friends called her two cats Sonic and Tails? Oh, nice. That's fun. Let's have that finished there and come along this way. .20, the Japan theme update, Bamboo and Cherry Blossom Tree. I mean, you also have camels. They have camels in Japan. I expect they do somewhere, in like a wildlife park or a zoo or something, but they'd be adding deer if it was Japan. Does feel like it's a Let's Cover Asian Culture update. I mean, they added pandas back in whichever update that was. Remind me. Was that 114? Or was it before that? When did they add bamboo? Yeah, 114. Yeah. I thought it was around then, but for some reason I was like, Village and Pillage. Did they have bamboo in that? Because it was the Tiger update and it was also camels. But then that was a result of a bunch of Chinese players voting, right? So yeah, I think they've been aware of like a growing audience in Japan and China for a while. China has its own version of Minecraft, by the way, which is free to play for Chinese players. But I presume doesn't include some of the stuff that is frowned upon in video game design over there, like using skeletons and zombies and stuff. Respect for the Dead is a different cultural thing in China, to my understanding. But yeah, there's... I feel like there's enough Western European stuff in this game that they can start to go, well, what else can we bring in from other parts of the world that makes the game feel more rich and complete? And yeah, I'm super in favor of them doing that. Used to have a texture pack that made oak wood look like cherry blossom wood. I think it's funny that one of the first things people like to retexture is like oak wood and cobblestone, because you use them all the time, but especially before the 114 update, they really felt like basic blocks that like you like new players end up using, because oak and cobblestone were just like the things you got by default from the start of the game most of the time. Obviously, since then, a lot has changed about terrain generation, and you might just as easily spawn in a spruce biome as opposed to an oak forest, but... So it is Trails and Tales, that's the official name. I like it. Like, the name doesn't have to mean too much, and I think there's also... is it Tales like T-A-I or T-A-L-E? Because that's what kind of implies story, but like what's... I guess camels have tails? Do sniffers have tails? I haven't really looked. Is T-A-L-E-S? Yeah. People have been writing T-A-I-L-S in the chat, and I'm like... That's not quite making sense for me. Didn't someone call it on the spawn chunks? Yeah, I think somebody did. But yeah, fair play to them. It may be that they've even heard that name from the community, and, you know, enough people have circulated that name that they thought, sure, that seems to fit. Guess Tales because of the books. I mean, it's more the whole customizing things, telling your own story, all of that kind of stuff, right? Although I feel like if you wanted to have it be like a pun as well, then Animal Tales. There being camels involved, you know. But yeah, this was an update that they said they wanted to focus a bit more on the storytelling and world creation aspects of the game, you know, like creating your own environment and telling your own story, which makes sense. This castle boundary, this is kind of a cliff that's going to be going around parts of the ancient capital, and the castle is going to be built on this hilltop, but it's not like, this isn't the castle wall. This is more just like a natural barrier formed by the terrain, and then the castle is going to be built on top of that. Bet you this is what they did. They got the name from the podcast? Nah, I mean, I think it's probably just a name that they found within the community in a variety of places and thought, yeah, that seems like where the vibe is from the community. It's the name that seems to fit it the most,
Well,
that we've seen other people use. Grizzle Wizard, thank you so much for the Prime sub, a brand new sub to the channel. Enjoy your emotes and your sub badge. Welcome to the Pixels. Yeah, the chemtrails update.
Well, that's just prime.
It sure is. Thanks so much, Top Cat, for the brand new Prime sub. So another fun thing about this, the machine is down there, the Skulk grindy machine, and under Stormvale Castle in Elden Ring, there is like an area that you can go down into, and there's this creepy area where you fight a mini boss, and then you find this weird kind of growth down there that looks like it's got a face and is meant to be significant to the story in a very specific way. I expect a few people will be getting back into Elden Ring, or might be trying it out now that the DLC has been announced, so I'll try and avoid like spoiling too much. But I kind of like the idea of there being secrets underneath this castle, and I haven't really developed the lore of the machine since that video came out, so I think it's kind of interesting to speculate about whether the people from this castle knew about that, or it's just like it's emerged down there at some point in the past, or if they built on top of this not knowing what was underneath. There's some fun stuff. Is there hidden lore around the ancient capital? There isn't too much. Like, I haven't hidden too much stuff. It's more just like, it's more environmental storytelling than like hidden secrets and stuff. I wanted to include more of that when we started this season, but I just haven't built enough really to start hiding things here. Just reinstalled it, going for Platinum on PS5. Nice, good luck. Obviously, the getting like all of the weapons, the legendary weapons and stuff is going to be a fun challenge, but I'm currently... I started a new character in Elden Ring a little while back and started replaying it, but then I got to a certain point and realized that I'd messed up a couple of the quests, and so now I'm going through with, of all things, a game FAQs guide. I've not used that site for like the longest time because, I mean, I've been playing Minecraft. There's not really something that game FAQs is that useful for. But I'm going through with the game FAQs guide and trying to do all of the quests and like the NPC missions and make sure that I don't mess up any of the missable stuff that happens. So I'm having a lot of fun with that right now. Oh, you just need 2 endings? Wow, okay. That's further along than I expected. Which endings don't you have? Do you know? I got the Age of Stars ending on my first playthrough, and I was quite happy with that because it kind of happened organically. But it does seem to be like the one ending that there are very few ways to mess it up. Like, it can happen regardless of whether you treat NPCs a certain way or not. Game FAQs walkthrough for Minecraft. First thing you're going to want to do is find a tree, start punching it. It's basically the survival guide, but in text form. Got all the endings on your first playthrough? I mean, yeah, I guess you can get the conditions for all the endings and then reload the game at a certain point and just start another one, but I guess you got to fight Elden Beast a few times. Do I always have Minecraft off-center when I play or just for streams to read chat? Looks a little uncomfy. I mean, it's about camera position. Like, the camera is not centered in the setup. The camera is, like, over to my left kind of thing, but, like, I just turn my keyboard a little way and I turn my chair this way and it's fine. Like, it's not uncomfortable for me at all. Normal ending and the Chaos Flame is what you need? Oh, okay. That makes sense then. Yeah, Frenzied Flame is a little hard to back out of once you've done it, I suppose. So that does make sense. We need another setup video. No need, my setup is the same as it was then, basically. Like, aside from my keyboard having changed, there's not really much else different. Make it a little different on this side. Pro tip number 2, find a village, steal all their stuff. Yep. Now you're speaking my language. Did the foxes still come by the garden? Yeah, there was one there this morning. Sunbathing. Is that a pro tip for Minecraft or Elden Ring? It works for both. God, imagine if the villages in Minecraft were as weird as the windmill village in Elden Ring. You turn up and the villagers are all like swords dancing in place, going ah da 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 da. It's a weird place. If you haven't been there, it's one of the odder locations in Elden Ring, and there are a lot of odd locations. Bye, Catherine. Why backslash / is clearly superior. / is on the other side of the keyboard. The whole reason I'm using backslash is that it's next to the control key. Backslash above your enter key. Yeah, that's fairly normal on some layouts. Bonnie with the 12 months are on spam the word nerd in the chat, please. Thank you so much. Black Steel, thank you for the 18 months as well. Bonnie, enjoy that nerd sub badge. Welcome to the nerd herds. Finally. Thank you so much for the resub. The full year of supports. That's looking good. I feel like it's kind of following the line of the terrain a little bit here. If we kind of have it go around like this. Currently running your backup keyboard, spilled my prop one into an early death. Oh no! It's going around apparently, yeah. Yeah, sorry to hear that. Hopefully you can get a replacement soon. Will the terrain go all the way to the aqueduct? Yeah, that's the idea. And I feel like on that side we're going to have one of the gates to the castle from, like, flying around because it's just a little easier. Being able to, like, go up through these woods and find, like, a way in would be really fun, but like the aqueduct here is meant to be taking water from, again, that river that I mentioned coming down from the castle is also going to have drinking water or like irrigation water that's going to be fed out towards the orchard. So that's the plan for where the water is going to be going. I like the trees. Yeah, I'm really happy with the trees. What a lovely bunch of neighbours. Alright, we'll need more stone soon. This has definitely required a fair bit of this. Like, I've almost cleared out all of the natural stone that I mined from the room where I built David. I might have the cliff like dip back a little bit here just to give a bit more space at the front of the museum. Because it kind of seems really silly if the cliff comes up to the front door of this place and you you exit this and the first thing you see is this giant cliff. One thing I'd like to do after the World Down is released is to check if there are any Sculpt Catalysts left, even after you've removed them en masse. There shouldn't be too many more now, because I think Fwip went around to everyone's bases with World Edit and actually ran a command. So he's probably even removed catalysts that were in the Deep Dark below people's bases. But yeah, a few people were just like, I want to make sure there's absolutely nothing left. And my way of doing it was survival, but with like Matica, and it required just drawing a big box around people's bases, but that wasn't a guarantee that we'd got the full area that was covered by them, so... Sausages on the case. Like Matica Method creates content for a video and a pretty successful YouTube short as well. I think that one has as many, if not more, views than the short that Grian was in, and I'm kind of surprised by that considering what a pull Grian typically is for views on YouTube. Do I prefer playing in single player on SMP? It really depends. Like, sometimes in single player I get really stuck into projects and I like having full creative control over the entire world. And not, like, running into other people too much or feeling like I'm treading on somebody's toes if I start a project in a certain area. I like being able to build all of the farms and stuff as well. Like, the one thing that's really the selling point for Empires is also the thing that I can find kind of restrictive in that I'm not allowed to build my own farm for honey if I need honey blocks or anything like that, right? And it's cool because it means interactions between people on multiplayer, but the thing I like about doing single-player worlds like Survival Guide is being able to build all that stuff myself, and I enjoy the technical side of the game a lot now. But, you know, on single-player it can also get lonely, and it's like, what am I making all of these resources for? I'm the only one using them, and, like, it really depends. It depends how excited I am about a project, but part of the reason I started doing YouTube in the first place was to join a multiplayer server, and part of the reason I wanted to join a multiplayer server was that I like sharing stuff I do in this game with other people. Obviously on YouTube I can do that via videos, but it doesn't feel quite the same as having like a population of other people that you're hanging out with and everybody just like cheering each other on and saying they really like whatever we're building, that kind of thing. There's two very different vibes, you know? Every time I stopped playing on a server, it's been because everyone else had already left, so I had no one to share things with. Yeah, like it's the coolest part of any of this, really. It's like having neighbors you actually talk to. And as soon as you're no longer on speaking terms, then, I don't know, feels like it's the end of an era. If you ever think about doing your own SMP with viewers or something like that, it's too much to organize at this point because I already have a hard enough time organizing my own, like, YouTube output and everything else. I had a Patreon server for a while, but I ended up having to give that up because I just didn't have enough time to, like, respond to everybody and admin the server, and I didn't really feel like giving the responsibility of being a server admin to anybody from my community, because even though I knew some of them quite well and I felt like I could trust a few of them, it still felt like giving somebody unpaid work. And I really wasn't in a place where I wanted to have employees, so I figure, you know, not really something I want to do. Even with like volunteer moderators from the community, it just didn't feel right. And honestly, like, if you start streaming from a server and, you know, you're doing it with absolutely everybody able to join, you have to have a really robust server, and, you know, there's always going to be some people who will just try and wreck stuff for the meme, you know? There'll be people who find whatever game-breaking contraption and go and, like, 2B2T it somewhere out in the world and crash the server and stuff like that just to create mayhem. And then if you limit it to a set number of people, then it starts to feel exclusive, and there's all kinds of issues with it that I'd rather avoid by just not worrying about that too much. What about very chill, intelligent David? There are too many evil robots lately? I mean, right? Why can't we just have good robots? Almost missed that jump because I hit control instead of backslash. When a robot is good, the story is usually sad. Yeah. The whole concept of robots excludes them from the good-bad dilemma robots do as they're programmed to do knocks a sense of morality. But then again, you know, stories about artificial intelligence have been around for long enough that you're effectively giving a robot the opportunity to think for itself the way a human does. Then that's a different can of worms, right? Yeah, short circuit, right? Again with the sadness. What happens to him in Short Circuit 2? He gets beaten up by a gang, used as an accessory to a jewel heist. I used to love that movie. And now I look at it, I'm like, ooh. Like, it's got a good heart to it, but it's also Fisher Stevens doing brownface. Why would you burden the robot with self-awareness? I know, right? What's this massive stone going to be? Well, right now it's a cliff that goes all the way around the ancient capital, because this landscape didn't feel cliffy enough. So yeah, I'm basically building a plateau on which I'm eventually going to be building a castle. I've already flattened out all of the terrain over here, kind of built a cliff on this side, which we can see if I swing around like this. So there's a cliff here as well, and it's going to continue along that way, and this whole plateau area is going to be where this hopefully fairly large castle is going to be built. So we anticipate a lot of Chopping Tuesdays where we just collect stone from a strip mine and probably look for deep slate coal in the process. The caves and cliffs update wasn't enough. No, we have so many caves, we need more cliffs. The problem is the cliffs in question were like mountains, which are cool, but I need cliffs. And for people who were asking earlier, I saw a couple of people in the chat saying, like, are you going to texture all of this? Yeah. I'm not just going to leave it a big stone wall. We'll probably do, like, little bits and pieces like moss and mud and that kind of stuff around the bottom, and then maybe some veins of material in there, like some andesite or diorite in there as like a vein of material. We'd even put the calcite from there into here, but we'll figure that out later. Mostly I just want to shape it out right now and make some progress, so then I can ask Fwip for a download of the world, take it into creative, start building the castle, get a schematic in, that kind of stuff, right? Not going to use a stone generator. The thing is, with stone generator, you get all the stone, you don't get any of the, like, precious materials or the fun streams where you get to just mine out material for hours, you know? Like what I do on Chopping Tuesdays where I'm chopping wood manually, I could make a tree farm for that. The point is, I get to just hang out with my community and chat. So that's the idea. If I need stone at short notice, then I can buy it from the Goblin Kingdom. Like, I don't need to worry about access to stone necessarily. It's just fun to gather all of the resources. Wonder how many gigabytes the world copy is. Most of the time it's trimmed down to a fairly small size, because we're all working in our own empires right now and there's not too much exploring going on. So I think the last download I had was maybe like 4 gigs, which is a lot still, but not as big as it could be, you know? I think he's had to trim it down from like 15 before. Oh, trust me, Lord Andy, there are a lot more Minecraft YouTubers making castles. I suppose of the ones you watch is probably the hidden clause there, but just wanted to make you aware. Probably a lot of YouTubers out there building castles. It's funny, of all of these Minecraft YouTubers I watch, a lot of them are playing Minecraft. Funny that. Right, I'm going to take a very short break. Just going to log out real quick, and I need to take my my almost penultimate dose of antibiotics. So hopefully be done with that real soon. I'm just going to get some water as well. I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'll turn the music up, and we'll be back in a few minutes' time. This is ominous. I keep moving this guitar around because this week I had some folks coming over to discuss boarding my loft, and I had to get that out of the way to make sure that they didn't knock into it with the ladder they were putting up and stuff. So it just keeps like shifting over slightly, and I'm like, no, come back, be in the shot. The music is sad for me. I know, what is this? This artist, Rosella Clementi, has what is some good music, but not necessarily the vibe I want. So I'm going to be skipping some of those. Anyway, we're back. Back and backslashing. Anyway, I started backslashing. Like the music, though, it's classical. Yeah, there's some good vibes in there, but it's just not quite the right thing I want for this. Not quite music to terraform in a chill video game, too. Needed sad music. Cutting unions now. Is that some union busting happening in the chat? Boo. Respect the rights of the worker. I presume you meant onions. Have I collected all of the things from Ren? No, I've not. That's going to happen in the next video because some other people have already found some of them. So hopefully I'll be able to catch up with them and, like, barter for the coordinates of some of them. There is also one more of the giblets, which is still in the possession of its owner, who had 2 of them but didn't tell me. Or I knew about it, but I wanted to play dumb for the sake of the video. Yeah, that's where we're at with those. Yeah, Giblets episode is on the way. Is in progress, although it may have to wait until I have a keyboard with a functional control key. Missing Deep Slate Emerald will probably be handled in the same episode. I feel like doing an episode where I just kind of tie up loose ends. So that can happen in, like, the foreground. That can be, like, the A plot of the episode whilst all of this landscaping and terraforming and stuff is happening kind of in the background. Because, like, stuff like this, I'm not time-lapsing it because it's a slow process, it's a lot of footage to go through. I might end up making mistakes or changing stuff, and I don't necessarily think landscaping like this always makes for a good time-lapse. And sometimes it can, like, there are some people who make really good landscaping time-lapses, but I feel like often those look best when the landscape appears fully formed. And I was thinking about this the other day. You know that that sort of test of, like, your... I mean, it's not really a test. It's more like a question about how you visualize stuff, right? With the apple. So they're saying, like, which of these 5 images do you see when you picture an apple in your head? And it's about whether or not you have... like a certain type of memory or, like, recollection, right? Like how it's aphantasia, I believe, is the term, where, like, you can't imagine images in your head as well as some people can, or whatever. Yeah, aphantasia. So, like, when it comes to that, I can have a fairly decent sense of, like, what something looks like in my head. Imagine an egg. Yeah, apple, egg, whatever, same thing. I feel like I have a fairly decent idea of what something looks like in my head, but then I feel like part of that skill is also visualizing what stuff looks like and being able to recreate it in some way. And I don't have aphantasia, but I refuse to imagine an egg. Fair play. That is entirely your prerogative. I find that I'm pretty good at visualizing stuff, but there is a second stage to it where, like, Scar or Fwip or, like, some of the folks who have been building in this game for a while and have that sort of repertoire of building skill and also a very strong visual imagination will be able to build stuff from scratch, potentially even first time, and they build the texture into it as they go a lot of the time, or they build the shape so easily that the texture just kind of, like, falls in. And I'm not to diminish the amount of work that they put into it, but I feel like for me, I'm not there in terms of, like, the ability to visualize something and instantly think, like, oh, this is how I'm going to build it, and kind of get it all right first time and have it look amazing. Like, I need to do a few separate passes, and it's just a different technique. It's like, first you get the shape down, then you add the texture, then you add other details, then you rework some elements of it, and you go over it several times until you get it working right. And a lot of builders have that as their process, but there are some people who feel like I'm jealous of the talent that they have, that they can just visualize something and reproduce it in Minecraft almost full scale without too many iterations. Or they'll just draft a little bit of it and they'll be like, okay, I can just do the rest from here. Like, I'm trying to get there, but it's just not quite how my brain works. And maybe I just haven't built up the reflexes required to do that in Minecraft. But it's really just about how frequently you do it as well. Like, you can compensate for a lack of that visual imagination with other things, like by experimenting and working on technique and all of that kind of stuff, and studying the theory of it without having to rely solely on the visual element. We can't all be B-dubs. I mean, even B-dubs has talked about, like, when he does his detail pass on stuff, it takes 2 or 3 times longer than it does to get the shape of everything down. And it may be that he designs a lot more in creative and then brings it over into survival sometimes, but there are definitely some people who can build in survival and have it work for first time. And, like, I used to rely a lot more on that, but I feel like lately the scale of my builds has required doing a bit of work in creative first, or working with more organic stuff like this in an attempt to make it feel natural. And I think one of the important things about this cliff thing is that this is just the first part of it. Like, there's going to be other, like, raised sections and sections where it juts out at an angle. This is all fairly, like, uniform. This is, like I said, just kind of plateau generation right now. But where it dips down over here, we can kind of have a contrary angle to it. We can have something that goes up this way, and it can generate, like, a really interesting amount of depth. But that's detail that only occurs to me once I've started the process of building something like this. Whereas I can't picture that right off the bat and go, okay, I'm going to plan for that to happen. I feel like a lot of that stuff happens almost by accident for me. Can't imagine or visualize things in my head, but I intuitively know what certain things look like, so I could draw an apple or an egg, but I can't imagine one. Yeah, that's another way that the brain will compensate for that stuff with different skills, different abilities. Yes, the band Imagine Dragons didn't know what they were in for. They were like, but how big are the dragons? Although Imagine Dragons is basically the Terry Pratchett theory on how dragons even exist. It's because they're products of people's imagination, right? I think that's how it works. They have revealed the 1.20 update name. What do you think about it, Mad Bob? What do you think about it? A few people have already mentioned it in here, and I think anybody who is worried about getting it spoiled for them has either left or, you know, has found out already. I would show you, but I can't hit my Windows key to open a web browser, so... Curious about the Tales part, give me more Minecraft lore. I think a lot of it has to do with the player's whole deal. It's much more about, like, what stories can you tell from within Minecraft than it is Minecraft setting up stories for you. Because sandbox game, right? That's usually the way it is. But yeah, the Trails and Tales update. So exploration and storytelling really being at the forefront of what they're imagining for this. Nice to have a starting point. I mean, yeah, the starting point is more like, hey, there are decorated pots in Minecraft now. Archaeology is a thing. Like, let's talk about where you can derive some of the implied story of Minecraft from. It's from ancient structures and, like, civilizations having left behind artifacts like that, right? So getting players to make story of the pots. Yeah. Sounds vaguely like the name you got from listener mail in the podcast last week. Yeah, it was basically that. And I think the assumption I'm going to make is that Mojang has been listening to community chatter on what the name of the update should be, and that person was just, like, on the money. Like, they'd been part of a discussion where that name had been suggested, and it was discussions like that Mojang was really, like, looking for and listening to. It's also the let's ship everything we promised update. I mean, let's be real, the only things that didn't ship in the last thing that were actually promised was fireflies. And that's because we got frogs eating magma cubes instead. Still waiting for meerkats. I'm hoping that they revisit the palm trees for deserts, meerkats, badland stuff, savannah stuff, all of that. Frogs eating lava monsters is bad for them. Prove it. Where were your scientists when we had to prove this theorem? Frogs eating people was funny. Frogs eating goats was just one of the best glitches. Like, I feel like that should have been left in the game to a certain extent. It's not good for the lava. Well, it's, yeah, not great for the lava monsters. Is that the end of that box? Wow, it is. Okay. This is all the natural stone I have left. When were usable villager workstations and bundles were promised? I mean, usable villager workstations were promised when they were delivered in 1.14. The fletching table just doesn't have anything. And bundles are in the game. They're just not there for Java, for Bedrock Edition. But that was for 1.17, which is when they were added. kind of sweet they never put sharks in so they don't train people to hunt them. Yeah, but also, yeah, you've also got to consider, like, what would sharks do? You know, are they just going to be a hostile force for the player? And, like, you know, do they drop anything useful? Or is it just like, hey, don't go in the water now? And, like, that doesn't really feel like a fun gameplay mechanic. In the same way that, like, the drowned have become kind of a useful thing because they drop tridents, nautilus shells, copper. They add some atmosphere to those ocean ruins and stuff. Like, I think, well, even though they're another zombie variant and that's disappointing for some people, I do think the drowned have a decent place in Minecraft's gameplay now, especially now they drop copper. You craft laser beams to put on their heads, right? All these Dr. Evils. Drowned took functions that sharks would have. I mean, sharks aren't going to be dropping tridents, you know? I mean, yes, it's a fantasy game, so they could drop tridents in theory, but also, like, maybe the shark would have to have been harpooned at some point in the past to drop a trident that was, like, stuck in it. But yeah, there's really, like, not much in the way of functionality that they could do to sharks beyond just making them a hostile mob. Maybe you make shark skin that has, like, natural thorns armor kind of thing, but, like, that you can just enchant stuff with thorns anyway, and sometimes, like, I don't even like using thorns. Thought bundles had to be 3 data packs only. Oh, I mean, they do, but, like, they were implemented. They're in the code. And there's experimental data pack bundles in 1.20, so they've not let go of the idea completely, but yeah, I think it's just unfortunate that on Bedrock they just weren't as viable. I'm just saying, like, what we're talking about with Mojang promising updates is really more about a shift in understanding what Mojang's development philosophy is, which previously has always seemed like, hey, we announced a feature, we're going to include that feature in the update. Really, it was just like, we've announced this feature because we think this is a viable idea, and it's going in no matter what. And then as soon as they change that to, we've announced this feature as a viable idea, but once we've developed a working version of it, we realized actually this is game-breaking, or it's not going to work for Bedrock Edition, or, like, for whatever reason, it doesn't feel right for the game now. Like, the community allowing them the leeway to walk that back is something that needs to happen, because otherwise you end up with a bunch of features that the development team ultimately doesn't like and regrets putting in the game. I don't want that to be part of this game. And, like, the Fireflies Frogs thing was really, I think, poorly communicated, because a lot of it just felt kind of like, oh, we've had the example of cookies being harmful to parrots before, so let's use the same justification for fireflies and frogs, when I honestly think the firefly thing just felt like an idea that wasn't, I mean, not, like, well thought through to begin with, but it didn't necessarily measure up to the reality of what people wanted. Like, first of all, people expect fireflies to produce light, and unless they were a block that you could move around and place somewhere, they wouldn't. Like, dynamic light is not something they're interested in doing in Minecraft. We had that with the glow squid. They said, no, the glow squid isn't actually going to produce light because that's dynamic lighting, and that's not something we do in vanilla Minecraft. Optifine does that, but sure, that's Optifine, right? So you have fireflies that aren't going to light up. And they are food for frogs, which means that if frogs and fireflies spawn in the same place, the frogs are going to just eat them as soon as they find them, which means that players aren't going to get to see the fireflies because they'll already been eaten by the time they get there. If you just leave fireflies in as an aesthetic thing, people are immediately going to try and interact with them, find out they can't, and they're going to be disappointed by that. Like, there are so many good reasons to not implement fireflies, but the community got really attached to the idea because it's something that they can see very clearly in their heads. Those of them that don't have aphantasia can see very clearly, oh, there's, like, bright, colourful insects buzzing around at night. In reality, they got memed into oblivion straight away by people who said, hey, this new Minecraft mob is only 2 pixels. It's a black pixel and a yellow pixel. And I feel like that might even have damaged the developer's impression of whether the community was going to enjoy fireflies. But I do think that ultimately fireflies ended up being something that didn't feel right when they tried to implement it, you know? There are too many things wrong with fireflies. And it's a shame because they were really enthusiastic about the idea on stage at Minecraft Live. But that's why, in the end, they decided not to say, hey, we're working on a cherry grove biome, and we're working on, like, a bunch of other stuff that's coming to 1.20. We're going to include archaeology this time. And not have people be like, well, they're just going to walk this back again because they did that with fireflies. Like, it's really a sea change in how the Minecraft team communicates with a community that's not going to give them any leeway on that stuff. Is not going to allow them to change their mind later. Yes, Critson Gaming, we did have a few people in chat mention the new update name, and I'm fine with it. I think it sounds good. I think, if anything, it seems like a slightly more, like, whimsical, not as bombastic as, like, the wild update. But that's really how this update feels in general, right? Like, it feels like it's, you know, smaller in scope, but still has some pretty significant features. And they're not trying to name it something that's going to give a misleading impression. Like, if they named it, like, obviously this is taking a cue from Minecraft Legends, but if they named it the Legends update and it was more about, like, tales from the past and, like, you know, the legendary legends of hidden temples, I guess, then that seems a lot more like overselling and under-delivering, in the same way that some people felt about the Wild update, where, like, you've added mangrove swamps and the Deep Dark is finally in the game, but we've known about the Deep Dark for a year and a half at this point. It doesn't feel wild enough for us. So yeah, I feel like anybody who's going to be disappointed in the name is probably still hoping for something bombastic sounding, which in turn creates misconceptions about the contents of that update to begin with. Ollie, my keyboard is broken. My control key is broken. So, normally I'd tap control to start sprinting like this. I know some people double tap forward. I don't like doing that. I haven't done that since, thought it was a choice. Definitely not by choice. Although after this, I've probably gotten used to it enough that if I go back to using control, it might feel weird. But, yeah, I only ever used to double tap forward when I was playing on console, and you had to do that with the analog stick, and even that felt kind of awkward. So as soon as I learned to hit control for sprint, I just, you know, always did that. But then, yeah, like, my control key, my alt key, and my Windows key don't work So I'm getting a replacement keyboard, and in the meantime I have to sprint using backslash, and I can't use keyboard shortcuts except if I'm using right control. If I want to control C something, I have to reach in with both hands, and it feels weird. With on console, pressing down on the analog button isn't sprint like it is every other game. I think that was crouch. I think in it was like, I'm trying to remember the Xbox 360 control format. I think if you click the stick in, like L3 was crouch, and then R3 was like hitting F5 to change perspective. Yeah, I think that's what it was. I use R for sprint, and everyone bullies me. Oh, I use R to change perspective. Like, that's my F5. Just want Elden Ring buttons for all things. I know, right? Such a good control scheme. Yeah, in Minecraft, I want to be able to hold R2 and do a heavy attack. That's how you crit. But it takes twice as long, and then usually the zombie can hit you twice out of it. Cancels your animation. Critson Gaming asks which feature I'm most excited about in 1.20. Honestly, I'm most excited about the sniffer, because the sniffer is adorable, and I get excited about cute things. I think what has the potential to be most useful in the long run is a different story, and that's the stuff that gets me, like, it's less about hype and more about what I think adds a ton of value to the game. Because right now, as a value proposition, the sniffer isn't all that great. Like, it's a really cute mob, and it gives you a reason to go looking for ruins, for suspicious sand, and interact with all of the archaeology stuff. But, like, right now, unless they've added any more plants for it, it creates one plant, and the plant just gives you orange dye, and it's decorative, and, like, that's cool and all. I think the things that have the biggest impact on the game are if they develop archaeology into a broader system, whether in this update or over a variety of future updates. That's really cool. Like having the brush as a tool, or having the ability to dig up items that way, I think that's really cool. And then aside from that, I think just bamboo being wood and adding cherry wood is huge. Oh, hello. This almost felt like, on Hermitcraft, where they had the creeper outfit, Scar's whole, like, creeper prank. It sort of felt like somebody had just turned up. But no, instead it looks like there's a cave down here. It's a good thing I've spent the majority of this stream up on cliff walls that I've been building. But yeah, like, if we end up getting more plants from the sniffer, I think I'll be happier with it as an overall addition. And I don't dislike it because, again, it's cute. But I can see people getting a sniffer and being like, well, this only does one thing, what's the point of it? And then never really doing anything with it again. Unless there's some kind of breakthrough thing of, like, actually, you can use the sniffer for this really important technical thing that can't really be done any other way. But then that's emergent gameplay stuff that we're going to find out about through probably Doc M or one of the Psycraft people. Psycraft are going to have that thing digging up diamonds or something, you know? I hope there's some more, like, some different vines or something. That's what the account that leaks Minecraft stuff occasionally on Twitter now posted a picture of some plants which were not torch flowers. They were, like, very different things. And so I'm not sure if that was a work in progress shot that was coming in an upcoming snapshot, or if it's, like, my theory, because we didn't immediately get those plants, was that they might have sent around assets that weren't actually going to come to the game to people they suspected were the leaker, and they're trying to, like, narrow down who it is internally so that they can discipline them. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but yeah, there's some other kind of interesting stuff coming out from that this week. If Sniffer only finds one plant, that's a huge fail. I mean, only if you consider the value of the Sniffer to be in what it provides for the player, resource-wise, right? Like, I think in terms of the interaction with archaeology, like encouraging players to get involved with the archaeology stuff, the animations and design of the Sniffer, like, all of that stuff I'm really happy with. And I think that can have value to players even if it's not giving you, like, valuable items. But I think for players who are going to be driven by acquiring new resources and having more blocks to play around with and all of that stuff, rather than interactions with mobs, which is, I think, the same reason that a lot of people didn't really like the Allay, is that we're so used to being self-sufficient as players and going out and getting blocks and items ourselves unless there's no other way to do it. So having an Allay help you out with stuff didn't feel like a natural interaction for players, and mobs are, because they have their own AI and everything, they feel unreliable to players with a more technical mindset. Yeah, I do kind of wonder if some players are just going to see the Sniffer as, like, dead weight in this update because they want it to do more, but then there are going to be some people who are much happier interacting with, like, a cute animal in order to get these new plants and whatnot, that they're just going to be, like, fine with the Sniffer and not worry about it. And yeah, the torch flower being a light source would be a really cool change, and I think enough people from the community have asked for that Mojang should seriously consider it if this is an update that they're going to be, you know, collaborating with the community on what these features end up being. Because again, yes, its namesake is a torch. Does make sense. Let's take a look at this. We built a lot. Like, so much of this has come together on this stream. And that's a very significant change in the landscape around here. I do like it a lot. Big cliff. Who's the music by? If you do exclamation point song, there you go. Ginger's done it for you. You can see what's playing in Pretzel right now. But yeah, this is all from the Chill station on Pretzel. Pretzel is an app that provides copyright-free or royalty-free music to streamers, so that you don't get dinged by DMCA takedowns in the middle of your stream. Or that you can leave the music in your VODs, I guess, because some people tend to use that functionality where you can separate music from your VOD so that you don't end up with, like, copyrighted music staying in your stream after you streamed live, and then they just play whatever they want from Spotify. Nike Name, thank you so much for the 12 months, the full year. Everyone spam the word nerd in the chat, please. Thank you so much for the full year of support. Enjoy that nerd sub badge. Welcome to the Nerd Herds. So happy to have you. Oh god, is it raining again? It's rained so much on this stream. Feels like the UK. Pretty sure Empire Season 2 doesn't take place in the UK. Oh, that's like thunderstorm weather at this point. I hope nobody wanted that to happen because I'm going to sleep through it. Oh my goodness, Bruno's streaming bingo again. He's worse than I am. The man's a maniac. I maybe do my best to tune in for and participate in Bingo Friday tomorrow. My friend's server rains so often that we just joke it's because most of the members are British. Yeah, we can't avoid the rain. In the, I think, 4th book in the Hitchhiker's Guide trilogy by Douglas Adams, there's a character who's like a long-haul truck driver who is secretly, or doesn't know it, but is a rain god, and rain just like wants to be around him, and so it's basically always raining whenever he's traveling anywhere because the clouds just like want to be around him. And it's such an interesting take on why it's always raining. It's kind of cute. His name is Rob something, and he's like a long-haul trucker, yeah. The 4th book in the increasingly inaccurately named trilogy. Yeah, when Owen Colfer did like a 6th one as well. It's like, yeah, all right. It's great need for a towel, indeed. Should always know where it is. Permanent raining great for buildings with dark vibes. Yeah, if you're doing like a noir kind of setting, then that does make a lot of sense. Am I going to do anything to prevent mob spawns on the cliff? Probably not. I think mostly because it's such a large area. Like, I'm going to have some light sources in some places, but I'm not going to torch grid the entire area because that's kind of defeating the point. Like, it's going to be a place where there is nighttime outside. And obviously creepers are going to be around, and I'm going to do my best to prevent them blowing up anything too precious, but... Wasn't there a side note about drought-stricken places hiring him? There could have been. But yeah, dude, I like this. I think that's... it's got some good vibes. And like I said, we'll work on other ways to make this feel more natural. Other shapes that we can throw in there. Because, like... I tried to hit the Windows key to open a browser again. Let me find a link somewhere that I can use in Discord. To open a browser. There we go. Incidentally, that was the link to the Trails and Tales update announcement video. But if I can get a look at this from the outside. Trying to get some good shots of like cliffside and like rock formations and stuff in Elden Ring. Okay, here's one example. Here is one such example. If I can bring that in. It's not letting me. See if I can do this. Oh, it's got dark and thunderstormy again. Oh, hang on. Now I need to open my file system. More difficult. Here. There we go. Okay. So this is Liurnia Highway South from Elden Ring. And obviously there's big cliff there, right? Like, that's roughly what I'm looking at this stage. And you can kind of see in the top of the picture, there's, like, structures up there. There's some kind of fort, or maybe that's part of Stormvale. I'm not quite sure which direction this is looking. But, like, that's the kind of cliff vibe I'm going for. And then, obviously, in the foreground here, you've got stones jutting out of the roadside and, like, little boulders, and there's a remnant of a stone wall. There's some people walking, and there's, in the middle distance, there's, like, a larger stone formation kind of thing. Like, that's the kind of stuff I'm looking at doing, basically. Sorry, that's my Windows sound, not yours. So yeah, ideally, we end up with something that looks like that. Right now, it's very basic, but we have the cliff shape from that, right? And so you can imagine up here, there's going to be like castle towers, and like we've already got one tower up there. We might raise the height of this cliff over here or something. I'm not quite sure how we're going to structure the castle around that yet, but again, a Fantasia, right? Not quite knowing where it's going to be until we put it there. Again, FromSoft's environment design, especially in that game, I haven't really seen much of what they've done outside of occasional Dark Souls 1 gameplay videos, but they've absolutely wild stuff. Like, I think it's so cool. But then if we come on down here and in front of the cliff on this side, like if it's kind of going up towards that way, then this is kind of intense. I'm not hating it, but it's a little much. If we put in something like something rocky like this, and then we have that come out like that, it's like it doesn't look all that great. But that's because we're using stone right now, and stone is like a fairly heavily textured, like it's a fairly neutral block compared to the ones which are more textured, right? But like we end up with more bouldery stuff in the way. The problem is everything in Minecraft looks so square that this just looks like a staircase. But if we do that out of like tuff or basalt or something, it's going to have a slightly different vibe. So let's grab some of that real quick and we'll see what we can manage. Especially since I'm running pretty low on stone at this stage. We got some tuff in here. That's in this chest. Got loads of that because we did a lot of digging. Slabs and stairs help a lot too. Yeah, especially with like stone shapes like that, I think. But then we can also have a go at doing something a bit more like the vertical stone formations that you saw back there. So for example, let's say we do, for a start, we're already working with tuff, and tuff is going to be a more interesting texture for it. But let's say we've got something like this, and we'll make it out of 2 overlapping 2x2 regions, right? So kind of like this. Then we just kind of exaggerate the height of a couple of bits. We add maybe a little bit around the base there. Pull this up slightly. Maybe throw one on the back there. And then if we put a few of those around the place, we have some more interesting things that kind of sit in the middle of the player's field of view from the foreground to the background. And it gets less detailed as you go into the background, but the background is much more about shape, the foreground is much more about detail. That's kind of where I'm going with some of this, so we don't need to do too much over-detailed texture work on the cliff itself. If we can have these little artifacts and bits and pieces in the foreground that can add detail to that stuff. And really all we need to do is add maybe a bit of mud and moss around the base of the cliff and a bit of maybe andesite or some kind of subtle texture in there. Something that's not going to create too many tangents with the stuff that we have in the foreground. Like, I think that's going to work out quite well. Again, this music is getting very intense, which works for the Elden Ring vibe. But, like, again, some different trees, some custom trees, that kind of thing. Tough is good. Yeah, tough is great. Like, I find tough really nice for building, like, dry stone walls, which are really common in, like, country roads in the UK. Like, you just kind of do something like this. And, like, dry stone wall has kind of natural gaps in it, but it's piled in such a way that it makes the wall fairly secure. Yeah, I think I'm very happy with the shape of this, first and foremost. I think the shape of this is solid. Obviously, we need to flatten out a lot of it at the top. And this is the problem now, is that what we've created is not a cliff, it's a wall. But we'll work on that. And it'll need probably a lot of lighting up underneath there, because I don't know if I'm going to do the... I did this entire section of the plateau over here 2 blocks thick, because of, like, being able to detail the top surface of this. But I also don't know where the structure of the castle is going to go, so I don't know for certain that I will want to do all of it 2 blocks thick. We might end up bringing some of this stuff down to the same height and flattening some of it a little bit. But I also want to figure out where some of the structure of the castle goes, because the natural landscape can inform the way we build some of the elements of the castle, right? Like a tower, like the keep is going to probably be on some of the highest part of the land. Maybe it's like up there. Some of the areas around here are going to be like more strategically advantageous, or like taller towers can be built there, but with the same amount of material as some of the shorter towers that are in front. It's just because they're elevated, right? Looks a bit bizarre as a facade of a cliff. It's going to look really cool once it has land attached. Yeah, totally. Like that's the feeling. And I think having done this now, I don't know that there's much else I want to do on this stream, really. We could go around with a little bit of moss and just add a little detail like that around the base of it. I think if we get some moss, some tuff... Honestly, I might not include tuff if we're going to be doing stuff like that in front of it. But yeah, some moss and mossy cobblestone, because tuff goes so well with mossy cobblestone, though. But yeah, we'll get some more moss blocks, we'll get some mossy cobblestone, and we'll do a little bit of work around the bottom of this. But then I think we might call it maybe 15 minutes early today. What's the castle for? I mean, for decoration? Like, what's any build in Minecraft for, really? Like, it's all about finding stuff to build in this big, open, empty world. Yeah, we have some mossy cobblestone here. All right, we'll do a little bit of that. I don't want to overdo it. But now it looks very different just walking out of my catacombs now and seeing foreboding cliff in the distance. There will obviously be some places where right now it's got this dirt ramp leading up to it. I'm going to cut that away. And the dirt is going to be piled up against the side of the cliff, but there'll be some areas where it just comes straight down. It's going to look very sheer and imposing. I think around here we're going to keep some of the landscape. so I can feel fairly confident in removing some of this and adding in, like, moss and... Gotta be a little bit careful about how we remove it, but... Gave me a little haste from the flyby of the beacon there. This at least means I get to reclaim some of the stone. So if we do stuff like this, we have the tuff in front of it, but there's still some of that background detail. I think maybe we need to go even lighter with the cobblestone. Like, walk it back ever so slightly. And really just keep it in the first, like, 2 or 3 blocks around the base of this. Yeah, I feel happier about that. I don't want it going, like, halfway up the cliff. At least not as the cliff currently exists. It might get taller, it might change the proportion a little bit. The Hawkeye, it's not dry stone. I was talking about, like, dry stone walls in the UK. This is tough. You typically find it below Y0 in, like, the deep slate layers of the world. But it's been in the game since 1.17 on both Bedrock and Java. So you should be able to find it in Bedrock. Let's just put that there. Shows cracked and mossy variants of regular smooth stone, not just the bricks. Well, there may be at some stage in future. But, yeah, right now, they certainly feel like, I don't know, not inconsistent necessarily, because there isn't really precedent for stuff like this being consistent. But it's like they're not being cracked brick slabs and stairs and that kind of stuff, right? We'll take out some of the regular grass from in front of this. Let's have that go like this. Imagine the mossy cobblestone just kind of coming out from behind cracks in this. And obviously, yeah, we can get a stone cutter. That's why I always keep a bundle on me. Do a little bit of mossy stone detail around here. Like stuff like this. Which I think helps with the depth issues of everything being kind of like stuck in the rock face, you know? I don't want to go too crazy with like having slabs and stairs in the cliff face itself, because that tends to look over detailed when you're building on this kind of scale to me. Like we can do something like that again. Yeah, maybe. I'm into it. Yeah. Obviously, it's a very different grass color to what we used to in the savannah, but we're going to have to work with that level of green for mossy cobblestone if we want to have it at all, because it doesn't alter based on biome and everything. So that's that there. Yeah, I do think that right here we might actually want, because some of the stuff in the foreground is going to have a lot more texture once I've actually decided what I'm building there. I feel like right at the end of this, we kind of want half of that to be gone, but have the stone still go all the way down. So it feels like the cliff really like comes from the earth instead of just being sat on top of this dirt mound. Borussia Dortmund. But yeah, no, I think that's solid. Hello, cat. This one doesn't have a name tag. Can't remember if any of the others really did. Oh, this one does. Security guard number 3. Number 2. The moss is such a small addition to the rock face, but it makes it blend into the terrain. Yeah, that's the impression I want it to give. There was a bit of drafting going on earlier. I was messing around in creative. Anyone who came on YouTube and found this through the community post there probably saw a quick draft of some like castle walls that I'm trying to work on with a similar style to this. And at one point I was trying to get moss to blend into mud, and I put a grass block between them, and I was like, oh yeah, that's really good. And then I remembered that the grass block is just going to revert into dirt, and part of me really wishes that we could have something like a grass block that didn't revert, you know? Which I think Podzol is the only type of terrain that does that, and yeah, Podzol isn't exactly going to blend from moss, right? But yeah, like a little bit of moss, a little bit of mud, and mud brick is probably going to have to be left out. But I think if we have dirt leading up to the wall somewhere instead of grass, or if we use grass path or something like that, then we can include some mud in there. Especially where it makes a good background for, yeah, stuff like the boulders we're going to be putting in front of it. I think packed mud rather than, like, that kind of mud, you know? I think that's where we're going to leave it for today, folks. I think that's where we will leave it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Hope you all had a good one. We're going to be raiding, I'll say probably Bruno, because, once again, I'm going to be trying my best to join him for a bingo stream, once again in Fetcher 5.1 in 119. And Bruno is currently my chief rival. Bruno Danuai is a wonderful streamer from Uruguay. He's very enthusiastic about bingo, kind of similar to how I am. So hopefully you folks will enjoy his stream. You can use your pixel hype emotes and the hashtag pixelraid to show some love. Say hi to Bruno for me. He's currently on a 40-minute bingo run. Still probably aiming for like sub 1 hour times. I think his PB is pretty close to mine now, if he hasn't already made it on this stream. But I'm going to be lurking there for a little while. My partner is also streaming in the other room, doing the usual stuff with fountain pens and stationery. That's at twitch.tv/celerymin. If you feel like checking that out. Warning, adult language, adult conversation usually happens over there, but I'll also be lurking in there to mod and hang out, and potentially coming in to read some stuff, because it's been a while since I read anything. Thank you so much. Enjoy Bruno, and I'll see you guys again soon. D&D this Sunday, but there might be a couple of other streams popping up, so stay tuned. My name's been Pixel Riffs. I'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye for now.